Shalom, welcome to the Jewish Task Force, J.T.F. My name is Chaim Ben Pesach, and we have another program with the great David Ben Moshe. This is the program where you're going to learn about what's really going on with the Iranian missile attack on Israel and the war that Israel has to wage for survival against the Arab Muslim Nazis that want to push the Jews into the sea. You're going to learn the real story here that you don't see anywhere else. And, of course, in addition to that, we're, of course, going to fill you in on what's happening on each front in Israel and how J.T.F. is trying to influence things and what we as supporters of Israel can do to make a difference at this time. There are two things we can do, and we're going to explain what those two things are. We've explained it in the past, but now you'll see it more clearly than ever because of the latest events. Before we get to all of that, so this is going to be really important because here you're going to be finding out what's really going on there. But before we get to that, this program is dedicated to a refuah shlema, complete recovery for Sharon Mitman, Shlomo ben Sarah, Dorit bat Sarah, Ruven ben Shoshana, and Ruth bat Sarah. And to Ilui Neshamot, elevating of the souls for Malka bat Meir, Allegra bat Shlomo, Daniel 19, Victor Chazdai, Pesach Zeb ben Dov, Lunita Adler, Shifra Hoffman, Ruven Hoffman, Barry Hoffman, Rab Meir Kahana, Rab Benjamin Kahana, Tzipora Fegi bat Liba, Yosef ben Meir, Robert Mittman, Dennis Shore, Helen Friedman, Charles Zolat, and Yair Levine. Well, as we're doing this program, as we're recording this program, Iran just fired over 200 missiles, ballistic missiles at Israel. And of course, we're doing this program several days after Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of the Hezbollah Nazi terrorist organization, was assassinated by Israel, and along with 16 other Hezbollah leaders. They were in an underground bunker meeting, and the Israelis knew when they were meeting, knew exactly what they were doing, knew exactly where to strike them, and blew them up. It's just absolutely unbelievable. The talent that Jews can have if they only put that talent to use and only did what they're supposed to do as God's chosen people, as a holy nation, a nation of priests, which is what the Jews are supposed to be, a light unto the nations. If only they use their tremendous, unbelievable genius and talent properly, what they would be able to do. And we saw that with the beepers going off, with hundreds of Arab terrorists being blown up simultaneously all over Lebanon and Syria. I mean, it's just incredible. Something again, you wouldn't see in a James Bond movie. It's more fantastic than anything Hollywood could ever create. And it happens in real life when it comes to little Israel and the Jewish people. Because that's the destiny of the Jewish people, to be a light unto the nations. But never, never underestimate the ability of Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, who is the defense minister of Israel, and all the other Israeli leaders and the Israeli media. Never underestimate the ability of Israeli politicians and Israeli generals and the Israeli military to turn a great victory into a defeat. Never underestimate their ability. So we're still facing very, very difficult challenges ahead because of Netanyahu and because of Israeli politicians. But I just want to make a few points here that have to be made. First of all the people that told us that we don't know what we're talking about in J.T.F. when we said Israel can take out Iran's nuclear bomb-making program, Israel can defeat Iran and Hezbollah, Israel can win if she wants to win. The problem is she doesn't want to win. All the people told us we don't know what we're talking about. Militarily, it's not realistic. They need American weapons. They need the approval of the late Joe Biden. They need the approval of the European Union. They can't do it. What are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. You don't understand. All those people were wrong. And J.T.F. and Moshe Feiglin in Israel and the Hilltop Youth were right. All the so-called experts, all the professors and military experts on Israeli television all the time, that's what they kept telling the people of Israel. And by the way, all the experts at Fox and everywhere else, all the generals in America that said, oh, well, Israel has to be realistic after all. And when we said Israel can win spectacular victories if Israel just wants to, God has given the Jews all the tools they need to win spectacular victories. When we said this all along, this is a message you've heard from us, and you've heard from the Kahanists for 50 years already. 50 years, a half a century, we're saying this. What happened in the Six-Day War when Israel won in 1967, the spectacular, unbelievable, breathtaking victory, it is something that Israel can do. If Israel has the right leadership, it can happen again, even on a greater level, and a more spectacular level even than that. And when we said that, people said, oh, you're unrealistic. You don't know what you're talking about. The truth is, we know what we're talking about, and the so-called experts don't know what they're talking about. Now, Iran fires over 200 missiles, and not a single person is injured. Because the missiles that Iran is firing they're not the problem. Iran's nuclear bomb-making program, that is a problem. Israel has to destroy that program, and Israel is capable of doing it. We'll see if Netanyahu, what an opportunity he has now. The whole world expects Israel now to strike back and destroy Iran's nuclear bomb-making program and destroy Iran's economy, which Israel can easily do. The whole world expects that to happen. But Netanyahu, that wimp, that traitor, and all the other traitor leaders of Israel, they never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. And the only people telling the people of Israel the truth all these years are the Hilltop Youth in Judea and Samaria, and Moshe Feiglin in the Zehut Party, along with J.T.F, of course, and the real Kahanists. By the way, we have, unfortunately, we don't know the details yet, but at least 8 Israeli citizens were murdered in Yafo, near Tel Aviv, at the same time this missile attack was taking place. Today, as we're doing this program, at least 8 Israeli citizens were murdered, and others are still in critical condition. 2 Arab Muslim Nazi terrorists opened fire on the Israeli subway near Tel Aviv, murdering at least 8 Israeli citizens. So we don't know any further details, but that's the story so far that we're getting. So another tragic example of what happens, because if you don't get the Arabs out, we must get the Arabs, there must be transfer of Arabs out of the land of Israel. That's the only solution. They must go.
Rabbi Kahane used to say that they must go. And he said that so long ago, and decades went by, and nothing's changed. The Arabs are still there. The Arabs are still committing acts of terror. The Arabs never learn. Well, when they commit small acts of terror, they're pretty sure Israel won't respond. But it has to take a major act for Israel to finally pick themselves up and respond to it. At least this time, they're doing a little more than they usually do, but not nearly enough. And if they had a general pattern, the Arabs would be in a hell of a lot of trouble, because the Arabs never learn. They're assassins. They're not soldiers.
And we see in the war in Gaza, over 700 Jewish soldiers were killed. The same Israeli military and the same Israeli intelligence services that can carry out the Beeper attack and that have done these incredible, spectacular attacks that we saw in the past 2 weeks couldn't win against a ragtag army of terrorists in Gaza, and 700 Israeli soldiers were blown up and killed. They kept sending Israeli soldiers into booby-trapped buildings. Why? Because you don't want to blow up the building. Maybe there are civilians nearby. We can't blow up the building. So Israeli soldiers should get blown up instead. One Jewish soldier is worth more than all the Arabs in Gaza and in the world. One Jewish soldier's life is worth more than all of them. Over 700 were murdered in this war by Netanyahu. He's a murderer. He's a murderer of Jewish soldiers. He murdered over 700 Jewish soldiers. He could have easily won in the beginning. That's another lesson of the Beeper attack and of all these other things. If Israel has this ingenious ability to do these things, they could have done it in Gaza easily. Hamas in Gaza is more of a ragtag terrorist organization than Hezbollah in Lebanon. So if Israel could do this against Hezbollah, they could certainly do it against Hamas in Gaza easily. But they were so worried because the late Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the UN and the European Union and the international news media and the self-hating anti-Semitic Israeli news media all said, no, 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 no. Innocent civilians, innocent, my toches. They're all Hamas, they're all terrorists.
How many times did they say, we are all Hamas?
And they are. That's the one of the rare times when you have Muslims telling the truth, even to infidels. And so what these things prove is, number one, when we said all along Israel can win tremendous, spectacular victories if only she had the right leadership, we were right, and we were right about Gaza. What Netanyahu has done this past year in Gaza is a crime against the Jewish people, an unforgivable crime. Over 700 Jewish soldiers murdered unnecessarily when they could have easily won quickly and decisively and triumphantly. And by the way, let me give you another little fact to throw out there. First of all, we were right about that Israel could win spectacular, great victories. Another thing we're right about. We said that when Israel is winning, the world doesn't condemn Israel as much as when Israel's losing. The Jews, this is the mentality of Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and Smotrich and all these other Jews. They're all alike, by the way. Ben Gvir and Smotrich are just like Netanyahu. They're not right-wing leaders at all. Frauds. They believe that if we get killed and if we are murdered and slaughtered, then the world will feel sorry for us. This is the mentality of these Jews. And so we have Jewish leaders who want Jews to get slaughtered because they figure that's good PR. First of all, even if it was good PR, what type of leader would sacrifice Jewish lives for so-called world opinion, which is always against Israel no matter what anyway? But look at the difference between how the world reacted when you had the Jews slaughtered on October 7th and how the world was so much against Israel in Gaza all these months, going on, playing according to the world's rules, fighting the war according to the world's rules. In other words, attacking a little bit here, a little bit there, letting Jewish soldiers get blown up every day until over 700 were murdered. And the whole world was solidly against Israel, condemning Israel, the anti-Semitism, unbelievable anti-Semitism. And in the past 2 weeks, Israel did a little bit of the opposite. Israel went out and did what she's supposed to do, blowing up Arab terrorists, blowing up the leaders of Arab terrorists, doing a little bit of the opposite. And these ingenious triumphs of Israel, the world can't help but admire the Jews when they do that. And this is another thing that only we in J.T.F. told you. We were right and everyone else was wrong. AIPAC was wrong. B'nai B'rith was wrong. Netanyahu was wrong. All the Jewish leaders were wrong. And all the Jewish politicians wrong. We were right. We said when Israel wins, when Israel does far more destruction to their enemies than they do when they're losing, when Israel wins and wins decisively and wins great victories like the Six-Day War, there is much less condemnation of Israel, and the world actually admires Israel. Even the anti-Israel world, even the anti-Semites, they can't help but privately admire what Israel does when Israel wins. If Israel wants to win, so remember the two things you got to learn here. Number one, we were right when we said if Israel wants to win, she can. The problem is she doesn't want to win, and that endangers her very survival. And the second thing we said, that when Israel wins, there's much less condemnation from the world. The world is much less against Israel the world will always be against Israel. Because they're going to support 2 billion Muslims, not 7 million Jews in Israel. They're not going to support this puny, tiny little Jewish country when they have 57 Muslim countries. They're going to go with the 57 Muslim countries. That's the way the world is. That's the way the world thinks. They're not going to side with little Israel against the whole Muslim world. They're just not going to do that. And yes, the whole Muslim world is against Israel. The entire Muslim world. All against Israel. The United Arab Emirates, whom they have the Abraham Accords with, condemns what Israel did in Lebanon, condemns what Israel's doing in Gaza, condemns everything Israel's doing, and works in the UN and behind the scenes against Israel. I thought we had the Abraham Accords. I thought they're different. Just like we had so-called peace with Egypt and Jordan. Egypt used the so-called peace to bring hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens from Africa pouring into Israel. They brought them through the Sinai, which stupid Israel, stupid Menachem Begin, that jerk, gave to Egypt. And hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens from Africa came flooding into Israel. Egypt sent them into Israel. And Egypt is the one that has armed Hamas. Hamas is a proxy of Egypt. I thought we have a peace treaty with Egypt. That's a peace treaty with Egypt. That's what happens when you have peace treaties with Muslims. That's what it turns into. Hamas.
You can't have peace with any Muslim country because it's a religious thing with them. Their religion says if you won't convert to Islam, if we have the strength, we will kill you. And there's no two ways about it. Passage after passage says they're going to kill us unless we convert. There's 3 passages in the Quran alone that says when you meet the infidels, chop off their heads.
And you're supposed to lie to the infidels. Taqiyya. Taqiyya is deception in the Quran. Muhammad commands the Muslims to use taqiyya with the infidels against Israel, against America, against Europe, against all of these infidels who are stupid. The Muslims are always amazed. They say, look at Allah, he made the infidels so stupid. We lie to them such obvious lies and they buy all of this. And the Muslims are right about. Look how stupid the infidels are. The Jews and the Christians are stupid. Okay?
That's putting it mildly.
And the Muslims are right to say, wow, look how stupid, look how dumb they are. The Muslims always get it. Oh, they love that. They love seeing how dumb the infidels are. And that they're right about. Very dumb. The whole purpose of J.T.F. is to wake the infidels up. We tried to do that before 9/11. If you recall, we predicted 9/11. We didn't know exactly when it would happen, but we said they're going to come back to the World Trade Center. We predicted this was going to happen, if you recall. People ignored that. People ignored Rabbi Kahana's warnings. And now people ignore J.T.F.'s warnings. How many people pay attention? On this program, you get more information, more facts, more truth than you'll get anywhere else. How many Jews in the world are paying attention to what J.T.F. says? Really sad. Really, really sad. If we just had the funds to get to first base, if we had millions of dollars and could really reach because we have millions of dollars, we'd reach all the people of Israel. There are ways to do that now through the internet. And of course, we'd be able to support the Hilltop Youth in a way that would save Israel from catastrophe. And we can't get that. We raise money, we do other things. I mean, we've given money to the Hilltop Youth. I work my tuchus off to help the Hilltop Youth. But 80 to 90% of the money that I'm sending them now is coming from me. And believe me, it's a lot of money. Because I worked hard all my life, and I'm giving them, I'm giving them everything I can give them. But lately, most of the money that's going to the Hilltop Youth is coming from me, and it's a lot of money. But I can't keep doing it. It's going to run dry eventually. And believe me, I could live a very good life after I worked very hard all my life, and I was very good at making money when I wanted to start businesses. Okay, but you see how I live here. I live like this because I want to give the money to the Hilltop Youth. 14 times in the past month, 14 times, their communities were destroyed in Judea and Samaria, and they came back and rebuilt and rebuilt and rebuilt. so that they can keep a presence there, a presence which is causing tens of thousands of Arabs to flee Israel. That's one front in which we're winning. But they wouldn't be able to do that without J.T.F., without the support J.T.F. gives them. And yes, I've given them hundreds of thousands of dollars out of my own pocket. Hundreds of thousands of dollars I've given them out of my own pocket. Money that over the years that I made, that I worked very hard. I'm 68 years old. I worked very hard, and I earned good money. I had businesses, and I had businesses that I created, and which I'm not going to go into detail what it was, but believe me, I earned good money. In any event, if we had a Jew who would give us the millions we need, who was in a better position than I am, I'm not in the best position to give money, and I'm giving everything. But if we had a Jew who was in a position to give us millions, that Jew would change history. That Jew would be like Ben Hecht. Ben Hecht was responsible for funding the Irgun, which blew the British out of Israel and gave us a Jewish state after 2,000 years. He saved the Jewish people from destruction. Why wouldn't a wealthy Jew with resources want to be like the Ben Hecht of history? Why wouldn't someone want to be like that? And you know what in the next world, wow, oh, the reward in the next world is beyond words for someone who would do that. Anyway, the point is we can win, and that's the real story here. And we get more support when we're winning, and less condemnation when we're winning, and more admiration when we're winning. And when we're losing, the Jews think, oh, when we're losing, everybody's going to feel sorry for us. Let's build Holocaust museums. The world is a cruel place, where even when Holocausts take place, the world couldn't care less. In fact, most of the world is delighted to see the Jews slaughtered. Most of the world hates Jews. And this is a cruel place. The only thing the world does admire when people win. Amazing victories. Even evil people admire that. And so the best PR for Israel, the best hasbara, are decisive victories. That's the best PR for Israel. But it's got to be real victories. Netanyahu is incapable of winning real victories. And I'm not talking, and the beeper thing and all these other things, these are small things compared to what Israel must do. Israel must remove the Arabs in Gaza, the Arab terrorists, the Arab enemies of Israel. They've got to go. They must go. And the same thing in Lebanon. That's the solution. The one guy who advocates that, Moshe Feiglin, I don't know how much support he's going to get. I don't know what's going to happen. If he gets into the Knesset, it could be the start of something big. And so we're going to try to get him in. We're supporting him. We're going to try to get him in. We'll see what happens when Israel finally has elections. The elections can be held any time from now until 2026, because it's a parliamentary system. It depends. If the Israeli government falls, elections can be held the next month. But if the Israeli government doesn't fall, if it stays, and I don't think it's about to fall anytime soon, at least I don't see that unless something changes, the elections could be another 2 years from now. But in any event, we want Moshe Feiglin and the Zehut Party to win. But the most important thing we're doing is on the ground with the Hilltop Youth. And the example that we could set, and that we do set, is so important for Israel. So important, the Hilltop Youth. The one group that's really doing on the ground what should be done, what has to be done. What heroes? These are the people who stand on the front line, prevent the Arabs from taking over Judea and Samaria. Because if the Arabs took over Judea and Samaria, what happened on October 7th would happen 1,000 times over, God forbid. All over Israel, there'd be a massacre of Jews. If there was a Palestinian state, it could lead to a Holocaust. The Hilltop Youth are they're like the boy holding the finger in the dam to prevent the dam from all the water from coming in and destroying everything. They have the finger in the dam. That's the Hilltop Youth. And J.T.F. is the only group outside of Israel supporting them. Wow, what a pathetic situation, and how wonderful things could be if we had more support. And everybody who's watching, every contribution you make makes a difference. It makes a difference. It's important to us that you support the Hilltop Youth. You support what we're doing. Very, very important to us. Every contribution you make makes a difference. Everybody should do their share. Jews and righteous Gentiles. It does make a difference. Let me give you a chance to do the right thing and support the heroic Hilltop Youth and support what we're doing in Israel. This is the one cause this is the one cause you really should be supporting. And yes, every penny in this is the one group that I don't know any other group like this, where here every penny you give is going not to people's salaries or fancy offices or other things that other organizations spend their money on. Okay, this is not the ZOA and Mort Klein, who gets a giant salary that's a huge percentage of the Zionist Organization of America, of the ZOA's budget, or AIPAC, which gives out huge salaries and spends and then raises huge amounts of money to help left-wing Democrats get elected to office, and says they're pro-Israel. The left-wing Democrats who support Kamala Harris and support a Palestinian state, that's pro-Israel according to AIPAC. What idiots you are! Idiots! This is who you support, idiots! And most of the people that are supporting them are Orthodox Jews. We have to, after all. They're going to get foreign aid for Israel. That's what we want, isn't it? They all speak like Schmuck Schumer with the Schmuck Schumer, Mike Bloomberg voice. That Schmuck Schumer, Mike Bloomberg, and you know, we have to support Israel. Otherwise, it won't be good. Eat a knish. When will you wake up and realize? When will you realize? When you give to J.T.F., this is the one group where every single penny is going to the cause. No, we're not paying any salaries here. No salaries. No one here in America is getting a salary. All the money is going to Israel. All of it. 100% of our budget goes to Israel. And the person who's in charge, me, of J.T.F., gives out of his own pocket hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he's not a rich person. That's why I live like this. Okay? Believe me, I could live well. I live like this gladly. Gladly to help the Hilltop Youth. Gladly. Here's how you help the heroic Hilltop Youth. There are two ways you can do it. One is online and one is through the regular mail, sending your support through regular mail. If you want to do it online, you go to our Hebrew main page, which is hayamin.org, hayamin.org. And on hayamin.org, the page is in Hebrew, but there's a big donate button in English on top. You click on the donate button, and in several minutes, very easily and conveniently, you can donate. Very convenient, very easy to do. hayamin.org, donate button. That's online. If you don't want to do it online, if you want to do it through the regular mail, you send checks and money orders made out to J.T.F., and you send it to J.T.F., P.O. Box 650327, Fresh Meadows, New York, 11365. We are changing history. This organization is changing history. But we can change so much more if we have your help. And by the way, not just contributions, not just, we don't only need contributions, we need you to spread the word about J.T.F., spread our videos all over the place. Help us. This is what is really important in our lifetime. This is the cause that's important. This is the cause that will make a difference. All the prophets, all the Nevi'im, all the prophets in the Tanakh, in the Bible, make clear that this is the issue that God cares about. And believe me, on Yom Hadin, on the Day of Judgment, you're going to be concerned about what God cares about. You'll be more concerned about what God cares about than, I mean, I've had wealthy people, wealthy potential donors say to me, I would help you, but I don't know, what people will say, they're worried about people. I don't know what they're worried about. I don't know what they're worried about. First of all, we're not going to, if you make a donation to J.T.F., we're not going to advertise your donation. Okay? We're not going to tell people that you've donated to J.T.F. We're not going to publicize it if you don't want it to, unless you want it to be publicized. We're not going to publicize it. You don't see me coming here and publicizing the names of people who've given to J.T.F. We're not going to publicize what you give. But the things people are worried about, the things people are concerned about are such a joke. What a joke. Life is so short, and it's so obvious that we're being tested in this world, and that the test involves the land of Israel and the Jewish people. That's so obvious, so clear and so obvious, and so few people meet that test. Really, 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 really pathetic. But again, we give you a chance to do that. Don't miss that opportunity. Don't be like the leaders of Israel who never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. Don't miss that opportunity to be among those people who are making a difference with the one group, the Hilltop Youth, that are worth supporting and that can save Israel. David?
Well, as everybody in America is aware, we've had massive flooding from a terrible hurricane. I think the hurricane, his name was Heather, maybe.
Helen.
Hit
Helene.
Helene, and it hit western North Carolina, it hit Georgia, and it hit Tennessee. And the disaster is chaotic. They don't know what to do. People have no water, no food. They're trapped by flooding waters, and there's not much help getting them out because such a major part of the states are in such trouble. And where's the federal government? Our leaderless federal government with Joey Diapers and Kamala Harris. Joey Diapers suffering from dementia, Kamala Harris born with it. They're nowhere to be found until Trump shamed them. So now Biden said they're going to be going down there. He tried to get the message out, but he coughed it out. Cough, 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 cough. And we'll see if they go down there. But what they need is food. They need clean water. And they need porta potties and showers. They need camps set up to help these people. These people have no place to go. If your house is hit, maybe 2-3 houses on your block with a terrible hurricane, and the rest are still standing, if your neighbors are any good, they will help you out. They might even take you in. But when the whole neighborhood is gone, what do you do? What do you do when you're stuck there and you can't even get out, and the floodwaters are even carrying houses away? I've seen houses floating down the street.
And you can't even call anybody up. Your phone.
No, you can't even call your relatives to see if they're okay.
Internet is out, phone service is out, all out. Yeah. Very, 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 very bad. And not only that, the late Joe Biden and the mentally disabled Kamala Harris, that's what Trump calls her, mentally disabled. How true, how true. These two, they said that we have to have equity, racial equity, when we give out the assistance for hurricane assistance now. In other words, white people are not allowed to get assistance now. White people need not apply. That's what it means. If you're black, you're going to automatically get hurricane assistance, and if you're white, you won't. You'll be denied, because we have to have racial equity. That's what they said. This is, then some of them backed away and said, "Well, we didn't mean that. We didn't." Oh, yes, they did. Oh, yes, they meant that.
They said what they meant, and they meant what they said.
Absolutely, and that is their policy. And by the way, Trump says that Kamala Harris is mentally disabled, and the media is going crazy over what? And Republicans say, "Oh, he shouldn't say that. He shouldn't say she's mentally." Oh, yes, he should. Oh, yeah, and you Republicans that are afraid to attack Kamala Harris, you're mentally disabled. You're also mentally disabled. Absolutely. Absolutely. And anyone who votes for Kamala Harris is mentally disabled. Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, great. Don't stop now. Well, how many times did we say that the Democrats have destroyed this country and the Republicans stood by and watched it and did absolutely nothing, not even criticizing or doing the things Democrats would do, win at all costs. Republicans think this is 1950, and they act like it's 1950, but they're fighting not liberals, they're fighting communists hiding under the name the Democrat Party, and communists are out to win and take over, and the Republicans just sit by and do nothing. I don't know if it's cowardice or just that I'm in office, I'm getting mine. I went in worth about $750,000. Now I'm worth $15 million or more. Why would I want to rock the boat? So the Republicans just, for one reason or another, just sit by and watch the Democrats destroy this country. And if you don't think they're destroying this country, just look at every city, major city with Democrats.
By the way, you're not referring to. I just want to make it clear, because it wasn't clear what you said. You're not saying that you're worth $15 million. You're saying the Republican politicians went in $750,000 and now are worth $15 million. Okay, I just want to make that clear.
On a salary of $175,000 a year, where maybe $65,000 goes towards taxes, so they're making, say, $110,000. How do they're taking home $110,000? How do they get to be worth $15, $20, $25 million, have 3-4 houses in 3-4 locations around the country, maybe have a nice fancy speedboat? How do they do that on that salary?
Kamala Harris did it. Kamala Harris did it by sleeping with half of San Francisco. She slept with half of San Francisco, and then she married a wealthy, self-hating Jewish Hollywood lawyer.
You remember during COVID when Nancy Pelosi was showing you the ice cream in her freezer? She was worth about $100 million at that time.
Her refrigerator, her freezer was worth $25,000-$30,000.
How do you do it now? As Speaker of the House, she was making $225 a year instead of $175. So figure she takes home $145,000, maybe $150,000. How do you get to be worth $100 million on a salary of $150,000 take-home pay every year? As Harry Truman said, you can't get rich in politics unless you're a crook. And we could see we're being led by the most corrupt because we didn't follow Thomas Jefferson's directive of what to do to keep the government honest.
At least one thing about Donald Trump, and I mean, you could say whatever you want about him, but one thing, at least he condemns the Democrats and really attacks them, which is something we didn't have this before. We had John McCain saying, "Oh no, Barack Hussein Osama is a one." He didn't say that. He said Barack Obama. He said he's a one. No, he's a very decent. He's an honorable man, a decent man, and he will do a good job as president as well. But I'm also offering myself. That was his argument. Can you imagine that? That's the argument. Obama's good, he's decent, he's honorable, and he'll be a good president, but I think I'll be an even better president. That was his argument. Can you imagine how stupid? What a stupid argument. That was John McCain. And no, don't call him a Muslim. No, he's not a Muslim. And in other words, McCain was defending his opponent. It's almost, the guy who runs and runs and runs, scores a touchdown for the other team. He catches the football, runs and runs and runs, scores a touchdown for the other team. That's John McCain. And you had the same thing with Mitt Romney. I mean, at least Trump, one thing about Trump, he goes after them. Okay, Trump really goes after them.
The Republicans could use a little going after too. Back in my last year in New York, went to a meeting of the Conservative Party, which turned out to be nothing but a rubber stamp for the Republican Party in New York. And all the Republicans in New York are liberal Republicans. So the Conservative Party was a rubber stamp. But we went to the Conservative Party meeting. It was shortly before we moved out here. And they brought up a minister from North Carolina to run for the office of mayor against multi-billionaire Mike Bloomberg, and I don't know who the Democrat opponent was. And this guy was so wishy-washy. He didn't even know where he stood on the issues. He wanted to study the issue of abortion more. He wanted to study the issue of LBG. Well, they didn't use that term then. And he wanted to study the issue of all this spending. He didn't know where he stood on any issue. So when they asked questions and answers at the end, Ashadina got up and she started screaming at him. How could you pick this loser right in front of everybody? You picked a loser. How much are the Democrats and Republicans paying you to pick a loser? And then she stormed out and slammed the door. And it got other people in the audience riled up, not against Ashadina, but against the Conservative Party. And they started asking questions. One guy got so angry and turned so red. He was fire engine red when his wife had to cut him down and keep reminding him about his blood pressure because he got furious. And it was Ashadina that started it all. But right in front of the guy, you picked a loser.
The Conservative Party only existed for one. I mean, originally it was formed to go against Rockefeller and Javits and Lindsay and these other left-wing Republicans that run the New York Republican Party. And afterwards, Pataki, all left-wing Republicans, all phony frauds that destroyed and bankrupted New York State. Republicans bankrupted New York State as much as Democrats. And
Rockefeller was Nelson Rockefeller was a massive spender.
Right. And terrible. He destroyed the state. And the Conservative Party originally went against them, but then eventually became a party to endorse all Republicans, pro-abortion, pro-gay, pro-big spending, pro-higher taxes. They endorsed all of them. And why? Because it was a patronage party. They got jobs. The people who had that's the whole party is about patronage and jobs, all corrupt. Anyway, we're getting off the, go ahead, whatever you were going to speak about, I'm sorry.
Well, as far as what's going on with the storm, and they're watching another storm, which they're saying could be bigger and far worse. I hope it stays out to sea. But this is the United States.
Now, of course,
no one is coming to rescue us.
We would never want the storm, of course, to hit. Anyway, I'm not going to go into it. A certain place, we would never want the storm to hit the capital of Washington, D.C. with all those congressmen. No, we would never. No,
Congress, you mean crooks?
They're all crooks. And
that's what D.C. stands for, District of Criminals.
Yeah, we'd never want that. No, I really, of course, I don't want storms to hit American cities. Of course, I don't want that because I don't want, there may be decent, innocent people who could get hurt. And so, of course, we don't want that. Even though there are a lot of people, and if it hit the Capitol, a lot of people who deserve it, but there are also innocent people there who could get hurt, and so we really don't want that.
This is America. No one is coming to rescue us if things go sideways. No one will be resupplying us. No one will airdrop food, medicine, ammunition. There is no other place to escape to for freedom. This is it. It takes a special kind of stupid to want another 4 years of what we've just been through. And a 10-year employee of ABC came out, and I held this for 2 weeks now. Well, last week, and I didn't bring this up. He said Kamala Harris didn't get the exact questions in advance, but she got similar questions. And he said Harris demanded it. And there was no fact checking on Harris, which Harris demanded, and fact checking up and down on Donald Trump. And then Harris also gave ABC a list of questions not to be asked under any circumstance. That's what this 10-year employee came out and said.
I believe him. And ABC works for Kamala Harris. And so does CBS. Again, I don't understand why they're debating in front of these left-wing reporters. It's just, I don't understand it. But anyway, if ABC, they are so biased, and the main debaters against Trump were the two so-called moderators from ABC, not Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris herself is mentally disabled, but the two ABC moderators, they were the main debaters against Donald Trump. It was 3-1. It was 3 against 1. It was just unbelievable, and they were pretending as objective reporters. They kept contradicting everything Trump said. No. There's no truth to what type of debate is this? And Harris, they never did that once, even though every word out of her mouth was a lie. Every word out of her mouth was a lie. She never told the truth once in that debate.
A moderator should be straight down the middle. But now, to make up for this, Harris doesn't want to debate again because she knows she can't. But if they ever do, and if it's not this election, some other election, stick to what you said years ago, Republicans, that you will never allow a left-wing moderator, that it will have to be somebody down the middle or somebody from Fox or Newsmax. And Fox and Newsmax will be right down the middle, unfortunately. I wish they'd keep their right-wing leanings. Fox, not so right-wing anymore. Newsmax, right-wing leanings, and they should be the moderators because they will be down the middle.
Newsmax is not right-wing. They're also complete phonies. And Newsmax had articles by the founder of Newsmax saying how much they support illegal immigration. He endorsed, what was his name? Jeb Bush for president in 2016. 2016, he endorsed Jeb Bush for the Republican nomination for president because he said Jeb Bush praised illegal aliens and said this was the true American, the beautiful American spirit, with illegal aliens coming across the border. That's the American spirit. And he said that was a very courageous statement by Jeb Bush. What are these, patients in a mental asylum? These are like patients. This is like the words of patients out of a mental asylum, also mentally disabled. These people are mentally, that's the owner of Newsmax, just so that you'll know. Okay.
Well, they all hide behind, we're a nation of immigrants.
Phonies, complete phonies. And all of them are phonies. And if these so-called conservative sites would do what the ABC and everybody else does for the left, then we'd be in much better shape. But they don't. They have to be objective. They have to bend over backwards and be objective to the left. While ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, they don't pretend, they don't play that game at all. They support the left. They support destroying America. Because if you want open borders, that's destroying America. They support the destruction of America. Anyone who supports open borders supports destroying the United States of America. America will not survive if that continues. The open borders.
Not just open borders. How about legal third world immigration. You can't bring the third world into a first world country because they will drag you down to their level. You have no chance of bringing them up to your level because their brain power just isn't there. Just take a look at the country they're coming from, and that's what they bring with them. And we have American justice was always too fair and too weak. And the founders said this country can only survive if the people are moral and civilized because our laws are weak. And I want to quickly point this out. At the end of World War II, so we're going back to 1940, this is 46 now, when they started holding trials, there was Ilse Koch, or maybe pronounced Koch, I guess Koch. She was married to the head of Buchenwald, and her husband was killed he was a colonel in the SS, and he was killed by the SS because he was skimming off the top. But she wasn't a guard, she was the wife, but she saw people with tattoos she liked. Now, I believe, I'm not sure of that Jewish law. Jews are not allowed to tattoo themselves, are they?
No. No, not allowed.
Yeah, so these camps in Germany also had commissars from the Communist Party, anti-Nazis, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses. It wasn't just Jews, camps in Germany. She saw people with tattoos that she liked. So she had them killed so she could make lampshades with those tattoos on it. So, she was a monster, married to a monster, and a thief too. And when it came time for the trials at the end, she was sentenced to life imprisonment, commuted to time served. That's American justice even back then. West Germany, a few years later. And if you remember, if you want to go back, there was East Germany under Communist Russia and West Germany under France, England, and America. Eventually, they got their independence and became a sovereign state again. So there was West Germany. They rearrested her, tried her again, and sentenced her to life in prison. And her son used to come and visit her every week. He came one week, and there she was hanging in her cell. She hanged herself because she couldn't take life imprisonment. So that's West Germany had better justice than America, even back then. Today, there's no justice. You commit a crime, you're back out on the streets in an hour. If you commit a severe crime, you're back out on the streets with low bail. The bail doesn't fit the crime anymore. The judges don't fit the crime, and the district attorneys certainly don't fit the crime. And so, America, what are you going to do about it? And I just want to add one more thing. America in 2009, so let's call that current America, versus 1952. A friend gave me a DVD of early battles of World War II, where the British and the French lost almost every one. And the narrator, you could tell he was a product of public school education. He couldn't pronounce one name right, and literally not one name right. You can imagine how he butchered the Japanese names. But even General Auchinleck, who was the top general of the 8th Army before Montgomery took over, because Auchinleck wasn't aggressive enough for Churchill. So this guy pronounced it Auchinleck. Almost everybody heard of the Battle of Guadalcanal. This guy pronounced it Guadalcanal. He couldn't get a single name right. And that's who they picked for a narrator for this video. And the video was enjoyable because it was footage I never saw on any video before. Almost, I would say 98% of the footage was brand new to me. Then you compare that to 1952, and I'm sure Chaim remembers this series, Victory at Sea. You do remember it? No? Yes?
No.
No?
No.
It was 26 episodes. The narrator was Leonard Graves.
I was born in 1956.
Yeah, but it was shown in reruns and syndication.
No, I understand. No, I never saw it.
The narrator was Leonard Graves, the greatest narrator I ever heard. The drama he added to it, his voice was deep. If you couldn't find a better narrator. You know who produced the music for it? Because most of the film is silent. They added some sound effects when cannons fired. But Richard Rodgers from Rodgers and Hammerstein, he created the music for the show. The music is so dramatic. It's so moving. And it was done by the NBC Symphony Orchestra, probably a holdover from radio days. So it was just tremendous. And the series just kept reaching crescendo after crescendo. And the guy didn't mispronounce a single word. He was on top of everything, including some of the lesser known islands in the South Pacific. Of course, they also show battles in the Atlantic, about the submarines and the battles at sea. But he ends the show with the 26th episode. The last thing he says is something about victory on land, victory in the air, and victory at sea. And it's too bad the series had to end. This guy was just an amazing narrator. And compare him to the one from 2009, who was a product of the American school system, the public school system. And I just want to say one last thing. The war on drugs is over. The drugs won.
Well, yeah. What can I say? I hope that's not true, by the way, because
you passed out a video showing, what was that, Seattle?
Right. You mean no, Los Angeles.
Oh, right, Los Angeles. Once the greatest open air, wide city, spread it out miles after miles. That's why Walt Disney wanted to go there. The Dodgers wanted to go there. And look at it today. What Chaim passed out was people that were passed out. Some of them were homeless. Most of them were drug addicts. Some of them just sleeping on the sidewalk. I hate to think where they go to the bathroom to relieve themselves.
I think you know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, we've done, yeah, that's a good point that we've done. I've done videos on San Francisco and Los Angeles, showing pictures of San Francisco and Los Angeles. These are videos you can find on our YouTube site and on our main page, jtf.org. You can go to jtf.org and see and find the videos that we did on Los Angeles and San Francisco to show what Kamala Harris and the Democrats did to California, because California was an unbelievably beautiful state, unbelievably beautiful, and it's been destroyed. It's such a night. You see these videos, you won't believe it. It's just a nightmare. I'm thinking of doing one on New York City. Should I do one on New York City?
Yes.
Okay, because it's also New York City. Wow.
The Empire City and the Empire State, and just show what it looks like today.
It was a city where people came from all over the world to see that city, to see New York. Huge tourist attraction. People wanted to see the city from all. It was considered to be the most exciting place where all the action is, where all the big national corporations wanted to be located. We had Broadway and the entertainment industry, and just I could do if I do videos on neighborhoods in New York City, it'll be similar to Los Angeles and San Francisco. Basically, complete destruction and despair. And that's where the United States is headed, unless the American people wake up. That's really the name of the game. The Hilltop Youth are fighting to save Israel. You need a Hilltop Youth in America. You need a Gentile Hilltop Youth in America. But I don't see anything on the horizon like that. But unless you have that type of idealistic spirit in America, the country's not going to have a future, because there's so many destructive forces. There are tens of millions of Americans are drug addicts. Tens of millions of Americans. People don't realize how big the problem is. Tens of millions of Americans are users of drugs and are addicted. to have some sort of chemical addiction, whether it's drugs or alcohol. You know, incredible. I mean, just incredible. By the way, I'm not counting cigarettes, which of course is also a devastating addiction. And you know, I just want to throw that in because if anybody out there is smoking, you're committing suicide. It's complete insanity. Just absolutely.
When I moved to Arizona, I couldn't believe how many people smoked. But that was in 2009. You don't see that anymore because we're 5,500 feet up and the air is thin. A lot of smokers were walking around with portable oxygen tanks, and you just don't see the oxygen tanks anymore, and you don't see the smokers anymore. It's like being back in New York where very few smoke.
Okay. Well, in New York, a lot of people smoke. Maybe you didn't see it, but
how can they afford it? Was it $10 a pack?
They manage one way or another. They manage to do it, and they're still. You'd be surprised. A lot of people still smoke. Probably 20-25% of the American people still smoke.
It was 20 cents a pack when I was a little boy.
Yeah. No, but I know. But I remember. I remember how. I remember. So many things were. Let's not go into that now. But the reality is. There are still people who put this poison in their bodies, and there are people who put other poison in their bodies, cocaine and heroin, and it starts with marijuana, and then it escalates up the ladder. By the way, both candidates for president, Trump and Harris, favor legalization of marijuana. So, I mean, which is insanity. Every place where marijuana is legalized, the usage goes up dramatically. In Colorado, they started it, then they put in Washington State, and now they regret having done it. And now you have all these marijuana stores that are opening up all over the place. They call them convenience stores. There's really, it's really insane. God gives us bodies which we should use for intelligent reasons, and instead we want to poison our bodies and we want to distort our consciousness because we're so miserable. Why do people use drugs? Because they're so miserable. They want to create another reality for themselves by which of course is always a worse reality than it would be without the drugs. But just insanity what we have, just complete insanity, and it's a sad story. And the only way we're going to get over it is if we have a world of idealism and restore idealism and restore values, moral values to society, which again, that will come from the Jews. When the Jews wake up, there'll be an awakening of the Jews. That eventually is going to happen. The Jewish people, or a very large proportion of the Jewish people, are going to wake up, and then they will become a light unto the nations. And a holy nation of priests. That's what the prophets in the Bible tell us is going to happen in the end of days. So those things are going to happen, and that will create an awakening among righteous Gentiles. But until that happens, if you look at our videos on Los Angeles and San Francisco, you see where the United States is headed. It's pretty dismal right now. But let's hope that if people wake up and help us, that the Hilltop Youth can be an inspiration for the Jews, and the Jews eventually can be an inspiration for righteous Gentiles around the world. In your heart, you know we're right, and in your guts, you know they're nuts. For J.T.F. until next week, this is Chaim ben Pesach, and for David ben Moshe, Shalom.